This is a quick tutorial on how to use Fusible Angelina fantasy film to make flame effects. You're going to need your fantasy film and some tweezers, scissors, and a candle. Okay, just cut off a piece of fantasy film. This particular color is called Desert Sunset Sparkle, and you'll notice it looks different on a black background and on a white background. That's because it's got an iridescent layer on both sides. That layer is going to dictate a lot how this looks when you melt it. So you're gonna, the best thing I can recommend is get a sampler pack of a variety of different colors, because it will be some of the most surprising colors that will make the best effect for you. Okay, so here's a couple pieces of this film. This one's more squarish, which I'll use to do this larger type of a flame. And here's a skinnier piece, which I'll use to do kind of these skinny bits. For the skinny ones, I want to cut strips. I'm going to separate these from the main piece here. These obviously don't have to be perfect or pretty. You're just looking for some strips. You can also, when you get comfortable using the flame to do this, you can just cut strips down to a certain point and stop so that you still have the main portion together at the end. Like that. Okay, this one I'll show you in a second. First, we're going to start off with these little bitty strips that I cut. Okay. You're going to want to hold both ends far enough apart that you don't burn yourself. You don't want to get really close to the flame. You want to find the heat column coming off of the candle. It'll be about an inch wide column of air that's hot. You want to find the spot where you can put your hand into it comfortably, and then you want to go just below that with this film. So it's usually just a couple inches above the flame. And as you see, when you dip the plastic into that heat column, it curls and bends, the edges twist up a little bit, and it's hard to catch the iridescence on film, but the iridescent layer in this, it's like it concentrates and it gets a really sparkly, shiny, very cool looking. You want to go all the way out to the end, make sure you get the little tips done. Any edge that's cut, I like to have at least touch the heat just a little bit so it doesn't look like a cut edge. It looks like something more organic. So there's one. I'll just do a couple here. You can let the flames do what they want and give it a little bit. You don't want to hold it tight because that will stretch. You want to have some give to it and it will twist. Or you can also twist if you want a particular, say you want like an S curve in it. Here's a straight piece of this that I want to put kind of an S curve to. So what I can do is grab that piece, kind of twist it the way I want, and move it into the warm air and slowly bring it down until it gets into the heat. And you can kind of control to a degree. Some of this is just an organic process though, and you have to just kind of let the heat do what it's going to do. This does not give off any odor, but still I wouldn't try to breathe that in directly. This is very different from, for example, if you've got pieces of gift wrap that have that same iridescent kind of layer to it. This stuff does not do the same thing, and it gives off a really horrendous vapor. So you don't want to use that. You definitely want to make sure you're getting the actual fusible film Angelina. If you want skinnier flames, you can either twist it before you dip it into the flame, or you can pull a little bit as you're in there because it does stretch. So if you pull in while you're in the heat, it will also stretch it out. If you overheat it, it will lose the color. So you want to do this a little at a time and gently. You'll need some practice before you figure out exactly where the sweet spot is in your candle flame's heat column. But once you find it, then you can just kind of stay at that point. Now this stuff can also be used with an iron if you want to fuse some layers of this to like some faux windows or something like that. But that of course is going to be flat. If you want this dimensional aspect, you have to use a flame like a candle flame. Could you use something like this? Absolutely. But then you have one hand tied up doing this. It's so much better to use a candle flame and be able to use two hands. Okay, so I have 4 pieces here. Normally I would do a lot more than this, but just to give you the idea of what you do. Get your ends, your bottom ends, and you want to get them all together. And then twist. So there's my pieces of flame. They're twisted here. I'm going to put it into the heat column and let those fuse together. This cools off very quickly, but when you do heat a twisted part, it takes a little bit longer, so be careful you don't burn yourself. And there you go. There's a little piece of flames. If you want to put that over top of a candle, a flickering candle like this one, you would just cut off the bottom end so that you have a nice flat piece to work with. And you can either glue it directly to the top of the flicker, or you can wrap it around it and glue several of these to all sides so that you get a 360-degree flicker effect. Now those are the skinny ones. Here's another skinny one I made with this. This one's got some yellow in it as well. Then there's this this thicker option if you want something that looks more like bigger flames. To do that, you take a squarish piece of your film, fold it in half the other direction, and then fold that a couple of times until you have kind of a tubular, triangular shape. And you're going to heat the end so that it fuses. Remember, that's going to take a minute to cool, so don't burn yourself grabbing that real fast. Yeah, it's still a little bit hot. And now it's down to a temperature I can touch it. So now I've got a folded triangular shape with the end fused together. I just want to pull these pieces apart, open them up. And I'm also going to wrinkle these. So I'm going to squeeze them and pinch them so that they get wrinkly. And then I'm going to use scissors and just make some random cuts in here. Kind of arrange it so it's shaped like a flame. And then gradually I can put this into the heat. Whoops. A little at a time. You get good at controlling where the heat is affecting. So like there, I was only using this particular side. Just remember, it's a tubular column of heat coming up. So you can work the sides. You know, if you want less heat and you just want to try to curl something, you can be, you know, I'm probably that high off of the flame right now. If you warm it up, you can bend it a little bit where you want. If you pinch it together like I just did by accident, it will fuse. So be aware that that can happen. But that's how you can give yourself some bigger flames to put around a candle like this one. I'll just just cut the end off and I'll wrap this around. See if I can hold this so that you can see it. That makes a very cool effect. Okay, and you remember that I did cut this piece into where it's together here, but it's in strips here. You take one at a time. Oops. And just work them into that heat column. Doing these really fast and messy just so I can show you what the end result is. Once you've got each one of those bent the way you like, then you can just roll this, trim off the end, insert your light, your LED, and glue it right over top of it. So that's another method for doing that. These look really cool in blue. This is a color that's called butterfly wing, I think. Butterfly blue. And over in black background, it looks like kind of like oil slick. It's very cool. I don't know if it's catching on camera, but it has greens and yellows and oranges and reds in the iridescence that it's picking up. And then in a with a white background, it looks more like a grayish blue. There are various yellows. One I used for this piece right here is Lemon Sparkle. It gets an awful lot of pink to it. I don't know if that's showing on camera so well, but there we go. You can see that Lemon Sparkle has an awful lot of pink to it. I would recommend using Citronella or Key Lime instead if you want yellow. But you really just have to play with them. There's a ton of different colors. I mean, there's, you know, it comes in a wide variety of shades. They don't look, once they're melted or stretched or even just over a background, the same as they look when they're in the package. Like here's one called Enchanted Forest. You would think that that's green, right? And if you lay it down on a black background, it picks up a heck of a lot of orange. And if you put it on a white background, I don't know if you can tell there, they do one layer of it. Here's one layer right there. It's actually blue. So don't go by the name, don't go by the color it looks in the package. Get yourself a sampler set, try them out, and you'll find the best one that works for you.